Hi, my name is Dahlia. Welcome to my channel. As you may know, today is International Women's Day, and this month is Women's History Month. And so in light of today, I wanted to do a video talking about my favorite female characters in books. And I have a few to talk about, so I just want to get into it. And of course, my first one is going to be Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter series, and I picked up The Order of the Phoenix in particular because this is the most recent Harry Potter book that I've reread, and she just shone so much in this book. What I really like about Hermione is not just like her cleverness and her resourcefulness, but also her way of standing up for what she believes in and being very vocal about it. And this shows in really two ways that, come up the top of my head. And one is like she is one of the only people, in fact, probably the only person in the entire series who stands up for elvish house rights or house elf rights. And she's like a very active and vocal ally. And it's just difficult because even Harry, who is the most sympathetic character in this book, or who is supposed to be as our protagonist, is not really an ally of house elves. Even though he did free Dobby, he doesn't really do anything else. And Hermione's the only one who sees how bad and how wrong this system of slavery is, and she does call it slavery. And so even though like her friends like mock her and they make jokes about it behind her back, she just firmly roots herself in what she believes in and really doesn't care what people say about her. And another way she really shines in this book is like, while she really cares about school and stuff, she's also very like grounded in what's going on in the world around her. She has her priorities set straight, I would say, because of the things going on in the wizarding world in this book. She defies one of the teachers in this book, Umbridge, and she's basically the leading force behind the Dumbledore's army and its creation. And yeah, so she's just very defiant, very strong-willed, and I just love her so much. And yeah. Then the next one I would say is Vin from the Mistborn trilogy. And Vin, between Hermione and Vin, like, I don't know who's my favorite. Like, Vin, I just love her so much. If you haven't read the series, please read it. It's a high fantasy, and the main character, Vin, she has this complicated relationship with her gender, in particularly this book, because she kind of tries to diminish her femininity in order to survive on the streets. She cuts her hair short, she wears baggy clothes because, as a female living in the underground, you get attacked more, you can get raped, you can get like beat up and all these different things. And so she has these like survival skills that she implements, but like throughout the series you see her grow, you see her embrace, she starts to like perfumes, and she likes to start wearing ball gowns, and she just grows so much as a person while also retaining like who she really is. But she also has this complicated relationship with like figuring out like her identity and like who she is and who she is as a person, not just gender wise, but like her role in the world and amongst her friends and stuff. And so I just love seeing Vin grow throughout these books. She's also like very good at fighting, very good at being a Mistborn, and so good. Yeah, she's just definitely one of my favorite people. And I also love how blunt she is with everything she says. Even though she like whispers while she talks, she's like very quiet. She is also just very brutally honest, and she just speaks her mind. And so I just love her so much. And then the next I want to talk about is Lynn Cinder from the Lunar Chronicles. And for me, mostly, I just really loved how Lynn Cinder was just really resourceful, really clever, but also just very funny and snarky, and how like well she got along with like most of the people on her crew from the Lunar Chronicles. And just like, she doesn't want to do things most of the time, and sometimes I feel like she just wants to like settle down and just just live a normal life. But of course, society doesn't allow her to, due to her status as a cyborg, because the world basically hates cyborgs. They have this prejudice. And so she, like, she takes initiative and she's doing all these things to, like, save, you know, her society. There's this evil queen bearing down on her, and so she's going against all these, like, power structures, as someone who is marginalized. And so I just thought she was such a strong character, but also, like, in light of, like, really serious situations, she, you know, had just this very snarky way of, like, reacting to things that I just really loved. And then another one I want to talk about is Isabel Lightwood from The Mortal Instruments. And what I love about Isabel was, like, how confident she was in her femininity, and how that did not diminish at all, like, her strength as a person, both on the battlefield and, like, you know, just off it. And you know, I just admired how, like, you know, she dates around, she's confident in her body and what she dresses in, and she is confident in, like, you know, her makeup, her beauty, and, you know, all of this. And also she's just, like, such a good fighter, and, like, how being feminine does not mean that you can't still be a badass. And that's just, you know, I feel like a lot of people who love Isabel Lightwood just, like, this is, like, what they love about her. And yeah, I feel like that one is, like, very obvious. Then another one I want to talk about is Reina Ramirez from the Heroes of Olympus series. If you don't remember who Reina is, she's, like, Praetor. I don't know what the people are called, the ones who are, like, the leaders of the camp, the other camp. I don't want to spoil it, but basically that really encompasses, like, Reina. She is a leader, and she, like, you know, things go down in these books that where she has to just make these really difficult decisions. There's another one rising up against her who's, like, making everyone believe something that's not true, and so she has to really, like, take initiative and take things into her own hands to, like, try to set things right, or try to, like, help the people who are trying to set things right. And even though it turns a lot of people against her, like, you know, she still, you know, remains rooted in, like, you know, her morals and, like, what is right and wrong. And she tries to prevent these conflicts from happening, and she's just balancing so many, like, duties. As you know, she's just such a great character. She's also another great person on the battlefield, and yeah, I love her so much. And she's definitely one of my favorite characters from that series, even though she's not one of the main 7. Then another one I want to talk about is Éowyn from The Lord of the Rings. I'm probably about to butcher a lot of names, but please forgive me. I'm just going to call her Éowyn because I don't know how to pronounce her name. But yeah, there are very few female characters in this series, but Éowyn is probably my favorite one of the ones who appear, because she's just so rebellious, so independent, and she wants to help out, but she wants it to be on her terms. She doesn't want to let the men of her society, because this book is very patriarchal, she doesn't want the men in her society telling her what to do, and that's what I really admire her for. Like, she wants to, there's one part that she really stands out in where she wants to ride into battle, but Aragorn, who later becomes the king, basically just tells her to sit at home and to rule in her uncle's steed as all the other men ride into battle. But refusing to do that, she dresses as a guy and she rides into battle. She fights the Witch King, and she's very successful in this battle, and I just love her so much for it. I probably spoiled, like, a large part that's very important, but, like, oh well. This book's really old, so I mean, it happens. But yeah, basically I love her. And then the last person I wanted to talk about was Lady Della from the Aeon duology. And while this book has some weird stuff going on, I think it does a great job in discussing, like, gender and gender roles and gender identities and, like, all these intersecting things. And Lady Della is a transgender woman in this book, though in her culture she is known as a contraire, which I suppose is someone who has like twin souls, as they call it. And basically, she was born in a male body, but she really identifies as female. She, is really in touch with her femininity, and so we meet her in the imperial court, and she's just a really great person. She's a great supporting character for the main character, Eon, or Iona, and she is just so brave because, even though she's accepted in her own culture, when she goes to the Imperial Palace, she has to like deal with all these prejudices and all these like hateful comments and hateful actions. Like, she was violated and attacked by a certain group of people, and like, she doesn't let that get into the way of like her loving who she is. And aside from that whole thing, she's also like, very brave in terms of like what she does in the series in order to like move the plot forward. She like takes a part in like, all of the events where she basically chooses the side that she really believes in, which is the side that, the readers side with. And so she is very brave on the battlefield. She has to do things that, she's not happy with, but she does because she knows she has to, and that it's right. And while all of this is going on, she keeps in touch with like who she really is, and that's like what I really love about Lady Della. And yeah, so those are all my favorite female characters. Honestly, there's like at least 100 more that I could talk about, but yeah, that was most of them. I think I want to talk about one more, actually. Sorry for the fake ending. Naswada from the Aragon series. She's one of the only people of color in this series, but she is a woman in power, and I just love her. She's another really strong leader, and what I just love about her is her ability to balance like what is right and what her like people want, because sometimes she has to do what is right for her people when they don't want that. She makes these really unpopular decisions, but in the end they end up benefiting everyone. She's like very intelligent. She's very courageous in her position, because she gets into this position in the first place because people think that they can use her as a puppet, that they can control her, but she knows what's going on. She's very aware of the politics surrounding her, and she doesn't let herself be controlled or manipulated. She's always like one step ahead of the game. When people like confront her with like their doubts and stuff, she's like, okay, I hear you out, but this is why you're wrong, and this is why I'm doing this. And in the end, like, her decisions end up being right. So like, she does listen to her people, but at the same time, like, she just knows like she just like understands the overall picture, and that's why sometimes she's unpopular with her people, but in the end, like, she is such a great leader. And like, I feel like any reader who reads these books like would fall in love with her. And yeah, she makes these great sacrifices for her people, and overall she's just a great person. Okay, now I'm done ranting about all my favorite female characters. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment down below about telling me about your favorite female characters, or if any of them have made it onto this list. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!